Welcome. We are, like Brie and Josh said, in the final installment of our series, Everybody Always. And it's been super exciting. And as we've been going through this and as I've been reflecting, I've actually hoped, and for me, it's challenged me. And I hope that it's actually challenged you. And I hope that it's actually brought us actually a lot of hope. And hopefully that it's also been a life-giving series for us to go through, to explore, and to be challenged to live in this way. So over the past 5 weeks, as Brie and Josh said, we've been looking at all these different things. We've been looking at welcome everybody always, love everybody always, honor everybody always, forgive everybody always, and serve everybody always. And the thing that I love about this is that it has been Jesus-filled. The content has been all about Jesus and the way that He has lived this out and has taught this to us, and what we can learn from this, and how we can actually go about living life in this way, this idea of everybody always. And so today, what I want to do is I actually want to explore basically the culmination of all these 5 things that we talked about. When we live these 5 things out, what we're going to talk about today is the end product, is the thing that happens. And that's basically inspire everybody always. So today we're going to talk about this. And when I was thinking about this word inspire is actually kind of a scary word. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I would love to inspire at least one person. And I think sometimes it can be quite a daunting task, but hopefully, as we explore today and as we go on, we see that actually it's something that we can do in our everyday life. That it's something that when we live out those things that we've been exploring the past 5 weeks, it's something that comes naturally. So this is what we're exploring today. And so along the lines of this, I thought, okay, who are some of the most inspiring people that I know? Okay, so you have the originals, the OGs, as the youngsters say nowadays. Okay, you have people like Mother Teresa. Okay, she's pretty inspirational. I know that she inspires at least one person in this room, Zols, over there. Then you have people like Martin Luther King. You know, he's pretty inspirational, especially for an entire generation of black people in the U.S., and then how that has exploded into other countries as well. Then you've got people like Captain Cook, who came and explored this fantastic country that we now live in. Right? Okay, good. I got it right. Good. Just making sure, guys. And those are inspiring. Those are explorers. They're guys that started out trying to do something, and in the end have inspired so many people. Then we've got more recent people. So those are a bit people from like the past, kind of. We have more recent people like Obama. I thought he was pretty inspirational when he was in office, and even nowadays, he has a lot of power in his words and the way that he inspires this generation as well. We've got people like Bob Goff, who we've kind of based this series around his book, Everybody Always. I find him incredibly inspirational, the way that he lives his life. It's amazing, it's powerful, and I think, it's truly inspirational. We have people like Bethany Hamilton, the surfer, took in some inspiration from Brie over there. She, you have so many people that are inspirational nowadays as well. And then you've got like your own personal inspirations. You've got like your parents, your uncles, your aunties, your coaches, your pastors, whatever it may be. You have your personal inspirations. And then I was thinking, okay, right, so you've got all these people here, you've got all these different inspirational people. Who would be the most inspirational Kiwi that we could think of? Oh, stop, guys. So, the next slide, Richie McCaw. I think, come on now. See, look at this. Richie McCaw, rugby's most successful captain. I saw that online and went, okay, wow, that's it. I have to take this photo. But Richie McCaw, for the Kiwis nowadays, this generation, look at his face, beautiful. For Kiwis in this generation now, he's pretty inspirational. I mean, 148 caps for New Zealand. I think that's the most, right, Kenny? Yeah, most. 2 times world champions back to back. Never been done before, ever. Back to back. And an unbeaten run. I think it was of 18 games, I read. Was it? Yes? Oh, Kenny is giving me the okay. He was actually my information. But this guy, he's an inspiration to a whole bunch of people. And it got me thinking, why do we actually find some of these people inspirational? Why do we find them and others inspirational? What makes them inspirational? I think the fact that some of them are amazing leaders. I think the fact that they've been able to lead countries, lead teams, lead movements, lead people in a direction to help other people. I think that's amazing. I think that's one of the things that makes them incredibly inspirational, that they were leaders. For some of them, they live life in a radical and quirky way that is sometimes unimaginable. You look at their life and you go, that can't be the way that you actually live your life, because that's radical, that's crazy. It's inspirational. It's weird. How do you do that? I want to do that. For some of them, they saw a need for change. And so they sought to be the start of that change. They said, hey, you know what? I see this, and I want to change this. And I don't know if people are going to follow me. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't think I care. But I want to change something. And through that, they became inspirational. And I think that's one of them. I think though, another one of the reasons that we find people inspirational is because they are often the first to do or accomplish something that no one has ever done before. Or the first to do or accomplish whatever in a way that is radical and countercultural to the way that life is normally led. If we take Richie McCaw, for example, with all his accomplishments for rugby, he was the first to reach those heights. He was the first to reach 148 caps, the most ever. He was the first to be back-to-back world champions. He was the first to, in New Zealand, I guess, to have this. He was the first to accomplish all these amazing things, and the end product of that is that he is being able to inspire generations. He is going to inspire generations. Not only generations of Kiwis, but in generations of All Black players. I can guarantee you that All Blacks coming up are going to refer to him as going, hey, you know what? Richie McCaw, back in the day, he was the guy that actually inspired me to be an All Black. He's the one that inspired me to push through, to follow my dream, to play rugby, to be the best that I could be. More recently, I found Bob Goff inspiring. I've read his book, Love Does, and I've read amazing stories from his book, Everybody Always. And it truly blows my mind the way that he lives his life. It truly does, because he lives such a crazy, radical life. Some of the stories that are in this book, Everybody Always, and even in Love Does, makes you just go like, hang on, no, that can't be. Like, you actually did that? There's a story, I think it's in the second chapter. I'm not going to go like fully into it, but there's a story where he and an old lady, and I think his wife, Sweet Maria, went and TP'd a house because this old lady had never done it before. How many of us would do that? Nick would do that. Ben and Josh. But how many people would actually do that? To me, that he took that time to actually spend with her, and I find that incredibly inspiring. There are other stories within this book that are just amazing, and you think, how can you actually live a life like that? How? And so Bob Goff, he inspires me massively. Another thing that has more recently actually inspired me is the Salt Holiday Program. And more important, the kids within that. I think it was on Thursday, I was sitting in the gym and I was babysitting a little kid, a baby. Yeah. And I was looking around. And I was looking at all the kids doing the aerials, the silks and the lyra. And I was watching them, and all I could see were these kids. The ones that were up there, all these kids were watching them and supporting them. When they came down, these kids are like loving on them and going, my goodness, you did such a great job. I've seen kids that have been here, have come to the Salt Holiday Program from the beginning, welcoming new kids that have never come before. Never. and say, hey, welcome, come be a part of our gang, come join us, we're going to play basketball or football or whatnot in the morning. We want you to be a part of our friend group, and welcoming them. I've seen little kids picking up food and serving their friends. I've seen kids forgive other kids for calling them names, for being bullied. Granted, we told them they had to. But they did it. And that's important. But these kids, man, they have inspired me so massively. The fact that some of them who have no idea who Jesus is, are living a life that includes everybody always. The things that we have been talking about. And this truly inspires me. Because if kids can do this, my goodness, we can do this. If a 5-year-old can do it, we can do it. So the Soul Kids have massively, massively inspired me. If we look at characters from within the Bible, or both Old Testament and New Testament, characters that followed Jesus, followed God, we can see that they lived radical lives. We can see that their lives were very different from what culture said life should be lived. They lived life differently. And it's because Jesus lived life differently. It's because God has actually called us to live life countercultural to what life is being said to be lived. And so this is what I want us to walk away from. If we walk away from here only remembering one thing, if you stop listening now, from one thing, it's this. We will, not we might, not we could, not we may live, we will live a radically inspiring life when we live a Jesus-inspired life. We will. This is just how it is. We will live a radically inspiring life when we live a Jesus-inspired life. Why is this? Because a Jesus-inspired life looks different and acts different to the way culture says that we ought to live life. The way that Jesus lived his life, the way that Jesus teaches us how to live life, looks and acts different to the way culture says we have to. And the thing is, the two go hand in hand. When we live a Jesus-inspired life, our life is going to be radically inspiring. It just will be. They go hand in hand. It's like peanut butter and jam. I think for all of us, whether we believe in Jesus or not, we could, and for some of us we do, view Jesus as inspiring. Even if it's for the smallest things. Because whether it be the way he loved everybody always, or served everybody always, or honored or forgave or welcomed everybody always, it was inspiring. And the reason it was inspiring is because it was radically different to the way the culture back then dictated that they should live. Right? And I would even go as far to say that if we truly lived that way, if we implemented the things that we've been talking about for the past 5 weeks, where we welcomed, loved, honored, forgave, and served everybody always, the way that Jesus has called us to, it's going to be radical. It's going to be completely different to the way that culture tells us that we should be doing these things, that we should be living out these things. It's going to be radical in our culture. It's going to blow people's minds, just like it did back then. So I guess the question is how? How did Jesus live that radically countercultural life? Yes, in this way. Yes, in the ways that we've been exploring in the past 5 weeks, but I think it actually comes down to one word. And it fits with inspire everybody always, or inspiration. And it's actually found in this book called Galatians, and it's actually a letter written by Paul Um, and so this is what it says. It says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Who gave himself for me. This explores this idea of sacrifice. Sacrifice. It's a big word. It's a heavy word. It's a word that to me, when I think of someone that is inspirational, this word links up with it incredibly. If I think about all the people that have inspired my life, that have influenced my life in some way, they have sacrificed some part of who they were to inspire that. If I think about it, this word sacrifice is actually quite a churchy word, right? It's quite a churchy word. It's quite a word that just goes, ooh, I don't know. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't know how I feel about this word. I'm not too sure. Because maybe it's a word that has always been linked up with giving something up, right? It's linked with giving something up, giving almost everything away and not getting anything in return, or getting very little in return. But hopefully, as we continue, we can see that this word sacrifice is actually different. Hopefully, we'll see it in a different light. And so the reason why I bring up this word sacrifice is I think generally the people that we find inspiring have to some degree sacrificed a part of who they were to become the inspiring figure that they were or are. If we looked at Richard McCaw, for example, right? I watched this documentary a while back. I was sick, so I watched it. And there was a part of this documentary that I didn't realize that actually he sacrificed a lot more than I thought he did. There were a lot of sacrifices that he made to his own personal life because he said, hey, for me, the All Blacks and the rugby world, this thing that I love with all my heart and I am passionate about, this needs my undivided attention. And so my personal life, I will sacrifice that until I retire. And so that's what he did. And obviously, the thing that he sacrificed the most was probably his body. Every time he put on that shirt and every time he played, you see that he's the one that is hitting guys the hardest, playing the hardest, running around. He sacrificed his entire body for this, and we find that inspiring. I found that when I was in high school, inspiring. Because he inspired me to go, hey, never give up. Keep going. Keep fighting. And it's because of the sacrifices that he made. If I go even further, for me personally, I had two swim coaches. I know I don't look it now, but I used to swim in high school. I had two swim coaches, and I know that they sacrificed time with their work and with their own family to spend time with me, to feed into my life and to inspire me and to develop me as a leader and as a person. I know the hours that they spent outside of swim training and during school when they could be working or having lunch, speaking to me, inspiring me, leading me, teaching me. And it's all sacrifices that they made. And I find them inspiring. If we look at Bob Goff, to me, in all his stories, there is a level of sacrifice. For him, it could be, it's a sacrifice of time, of money, of pride, of selfishness. This is what I see when I read his stories. And I find him incredibly inspiring. Sacrifice is actually part of being inspired or being inspiring. And then we look at someone like Jesus, who sacrificed his life for us to not only defeat sin, okay? Not only to restore relationship with God, but to also bring joy in the form of freedom. The way that Jesus viewed sacrifice was radically different to the way that culture during that time, and I can safely assume even now, views sacrifice. The way that Jesus views sacrifice, and I don't even want to get this wrong, so I'm going to read it from here. And especially his sacrifice on the cross was that of the greater win. He saw joy and freedom from sin and restored relationship beyond the sacrifice that he had to make. He saw sacrifice as actually gaining more than losing more. That's the way that he saw it. He saw sacrifice. He saw the sacrifice that he had to go through as something like, hey, look, I'll do this. Because I know beyond that, beyond this moment that I have to give up, that I have to sacrifice, as big as it may be, I see joy. I see freedom. I see restored relationship with people. And to me, that inspires. That this man, whether we believe he was real or not, whether we believe that he was the Son of God or not, whether we believe it as real or as a story, this man is inspiring because he chose to sacrifice himself for the greater win. And so this is what I wanted to challenge us. I actually have two challenges for us. The first is I want to challenge us to choose to live a radically inspiring life. I want us to choose to actually live that. Because it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be simple. But I want us to choose to live a radically inspiring life. And for those of us who call ourselves Jesus followers, let us be inspired. Okay? Let us be inspired by the way that Jesus perfectly welcomed and loved and honored and forgave and served people. For those of us that don't believe in Jesus, that's perfectly fine because we can still be inspired by him. We can still be inspired by the way that he did life, the way that he loved and welcomed and honored everybody always. You can choose to be inspired by him as well. It's not just saved for those of us who believe. That was never his intention. Whether we believe or not, we can be inspired by Jesus. We can be inspired to live a life that welcomes, loves, honors, forgives, and serves everybody always. And our second challenge is this, is to actually view sacrifice the way that Jesus defines it to be. Because what if we viewed sacrifice in the way that Jesus defines it to be and not the way that culture says it to be? To change our definition of sacrifice from losing more than gaining to saying that to sacrifice is to gain more than to lose more. What if we viewed it in the way that sacrifice is actually for the greater win? That we gain so much more. As personally, we gain so much more than what we lose. So there's a verse in Hebrews. We don't know who the author is, but he's a wise person. Because he writes this: "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." So what does this say? Reading it in the context of everybody always, what does this share? Let us sacrifice the things that would hinder us in welcoming people, in loving people, in honoring people, in forgiving and serving people. What if we chose, okay, now I want us to dream. This is a perfect world. What if we chose to sacrifice our comfort or our time to welcome everybody always? What if we chose to sacrifice or give up our resources, our money, our food, our house, our car, whatever it may be, to love everybody always? What if we chose to give up our energy to honor everybody always? What if we chose to throw off our pride that hinders us from forgiving everybody always? What if we chose to sacrifice our selfishness to serve everybody always? What if we did this? What if we did this? It continues and it says this, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Let us choose to be inspired by Jesus. To seek inspiration in the way that he lived out faith, because he is the author and perfecter of our faith. He is the one that perfectly welcomed, loved, honored, forgave, and served everybody always. And if we have set that as our goal, if we as followers or not have said, hey, we want to be able to do that for everybody always, we have someone that has done it perfectly in the form of Jesus. And he's saying, hey, anyone and everyone is welcome. Anyone and everyone can do this. Why? Why? We can quite easily just live life not doing any of this. We can. Why do it? As Jesus followers, this is what we're called to do. I love what Zal said, I think it was last week. This is what Jesus followers, this is what we're called to do. It's a requirement. We have to do this. If we call ourselves Jesus followers, this is what we're called to do. We can allow Jesus to inspire us to do this, to live out in this way, where we're welcoming people, when we're welcoming everybody always, where we're loving everybody always. We will be living radically inspiring lives when we're living this out. It's a given. And for those of us that don't believe, that's fine. You can still choose to be inspired by Jesus. Nothing stops you. But I will share this. If you do choose, you're going to be living a radically inspiring life. You will, without a doubt. And it's going to lead to a fulfilling life. It will, without a doubt. It's going to lead to a life where we don't have to think about being inspiring. We will be living radically inspiring lives. It's a given, without a doubt. Because I wanted to leave off with this, and maybe the band can come up. I'm about done. Because what if we saw it like this? What if this radically inspiring life, okay? This radically inspiring life that we've been talking about and that we've been exploring, not just today, but over the past 5 weeks. That welcoming, serving, loving, forgiving, and honoring everybody always, it leads to this radically inspiring life. What if God actually intended it to be the standard of life? What if this was the standard of life? how mind-blowing would that be? How radically inspiring would that be? And we can. Because I believe that this was intended to be the standard way of life. That's what it was intended to be. It gives us a little something to think about as we end our series. So I just want to pray for us, and then we can finish off. Dear God, thank you so much that we've had the opportunity to explore over the past 5 weeks this idea of everybody always. God, thank you so much that we've had the opportunity to learn from your son, Jesus. To learn how he did it, to learn the way he lived life and teaches us how to live life. God, I pray that as we leave today, as we end off this series, as we end off these conversations that we've been having, that we choose to live a radically inspiring life. We choose to allow Jesus to inspire our life. Thank you so much for your son and the fact that he died on the cross for us. The fact that he sacrificed himself for us and redefined what it means to sacrifice. That sacrifice isn't losing more. It's actually gaining more. It's for the greater win. God, I pray that as we leave here, we maybe redefine that word in our lives. God, thank you so much that we had the opportunity to go through this. This is great. It's important stuff. It's powerful stuff. It's life-giving stuff. I want to thank you so much that we've had the opportunity to do that. God, I just